Welcome into the In the Money podcast for Breeders' Cup Friday. Tom Leach along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Wagering Development. Going to take a look at the 5 Breeders' Cup races on the Friday card at Churchill Downs. The pick 5 starts with the first one, the Juvenile Turf Sprint. Then there's a pick 4 of all Breeders' Cup races that starts in the 6th. And then there's another pick 4 that starts in the 7th. We're going to look at the pick 4 that starts with all the Breeders' Cup races in the 6th. But, Jim, let's jump right into the first race, which is the Juvenile Turf Sprint, the new one, 5.5 furlongs. And the 2-year-olds and all the horses on the turf. I heard Darren Rogers does the media relations at Churchill in an interview this week on Steve Bick's show. He was talking about they haven't used the inside part of that turf course since June. Didn't use it in the September meet. So that is something to think about. That could be the best ground down on the inside. So those inside draws for some horses could be a big key in this. So tell me how you see the Juvenile Turf Sprint shaking out.
Well, guess who I picked? The one horse, Strike Silver. And I did not have access to that information. This race, if you're going to play a pick 5, this is a very difficult race to start the sequence. And before we started recording, I asked you if we're going to play a pick 5 because I would go 6 deep in here, which multiplies my pick 4 ticket by 6. So that gets really expensive really quick. But this race is wide open. I can see I've got a couple of horses circled that are 12-1 and 20-1. So we'll start, though, with Strike Silver, who should be one of the favorites down the inside for Le Peru. If you go back and watch the Indian Summer at Keeneland, it was extremely impressive. You do not see horses come from the 2-hole, 11 lengths down at the half-mile pole, dead last, circle the field, and win by neck. The only thing that worries me a little bit is his ability to get out of that one hole and get toward the lead, because he showed that ability the first 2 races from the outside post in the maiden special weight in Sanford. In the Indian Summer, he was on the inside and got killed at the start. And in retrospect, that may have been a blessing because the race kind of fell apart and he mowed him down on the outside. But I thought that showed a lot for a 2-year-old. So Strike Silver is my pick here. And if I did play a pick 5, I can't go 6 deep here in a pick 5 because it gets dicey later on. So I would take a stand with Strike Silver. And another horse that I like, Soldier's Call on the inside. This horse ran on Art Day in France and only got beat in a Grade 1 by a head at 5 furlongs, and just got nipped at the wire. And before that, had won 2 straight races. Time form rating 106 fits extremely well here as a European. I think Moonlight Romance, the 6, is getting no respect at a 12-1 morning line. The Kentucky Downs people have been tweeting about that all week, that how can this horse that won the Kentucky Juvenile Turf Sprint so impressively get no betting? I can't believe that she's going to get 12-1 on here with Jose Ortiz. But if she does, I'll take a 1/6 exacta box all day long. Shang, Wesley Ward's filly, who came back from the Norfolk Stakes at Ascot, has a real shot here. Chelsea Cloisters, who ran second to Strike Silver. And then an outside horse called Pocket Dynamo for Joel Rosario comes over from Newmarket, and just going to throw this in has run against a couple of these horses. That's going to be my real long shot in here, just thinking that if it falls apart, he may be able to pick up the pieces. But that's my take on it. Strike Silver, Soldier's Call, and Moonlight Romance are my 3 top picks.
I like the Euros in here most, so I'm going to start with them. Sergei Prokofiev for Aidan O'Brien is going to be my pick. This is a closer. I went back and watched his last race, and he had tons of trouble. He was dead last. It was one of those straightaway runs in Europe in a turf sprint, and he's dead last and just crying out for some place to run. And the jockey's going in and out and can't find any place. They've got a ton of horse. Finally finds a lane, and it has to, make a couple of sideways moves, gets out and wins. And just so impressive. Horse getting first Lasix coming over from Europe, and he has 3 6-furlong races on his resume, and I like that, cutting back to 5.5 furlongs here. So I'm going with that horse. I like Soldier's Call. I like Well Done Fox, the 2 and the 3, like those inside posts. Pocket Dynamo, I like too for a long shot. I think that horse had trouble, big time trouble last time. Now making the second start off the layoff. Don't like the post, but I think that horse could run big at a price, and I like Rosario on that horse is a good fit. Of the U.S. horses, Strike Silver and Moonlight Romance are probably the two I like best. So I'm like you. I'm going to have to spread if I play a pick 5 ticket. It'll get real pricey because it's hard to have a strong opinion in there. Moves us to the 6th race, which is the Juvenile Fillies Turf at a mile. Newspaper of Record looks awfully strong. I'm going to try to beat her with the horse that won the Jessamine at Keeneland. I really like Concrete Rose's race. Really impressive turn of foot last time in her first 2-turn race. I like this inside draw, too. So I'm going to see if Rusty Arnold's filly can beat Newspaper of Record, but I'll take a stand with those two in multi-race wagers. I think the 8 Belle Laura for Norm Cassie could hit the board at a price. This horse was really wide last time, broke from the 14 hole, had to take back, and then had to circle past the whole field and was really flying late. So I think that horse can hit the board at a price. How about you in the Juvenile Fillies Turf?
I swear we didn't talk about this before it was being recorded, but I've got a little note down here with an asterisk. Long shot to hit the board, closer Belle Laura, coming out from way out of it. And I love Corey Lannery, but this is an upgrade getting Le Peru on turf at Churchill. So I think you're right on it there in that Jessamine race. I mean, she was dead last, 13 out of 13. And came running at the end and got within 3 1/4 lengths of a really impressive winner. So Concrete Rose got a great trip and split horses and finished very well. But I think Belle Laura is a good shot to hit the board. I went with this one. I spread a little bit. I didn't want to be at the beginning of the pick 4 just taking Concrete Rose and Newspaper of Record. I mean, Newspaper of Record looks like the single here, but I'm afraid that some of these Euros may jump up here. And just like you thought about the last race using Euros, I'm going to use at least 3 Euros here. I'm going to use the Mackham Bullet coming out of the Judd Mott Stakes at Newmarket, a $400,000 stakes. It just got beat by neck by Fairyland, another Wesley Ward horse. Lily's Candle, a French horse coming off a win on Art Day. Just Wonderful for Aidan O'Brien. You always put him in there. So I'm going to use those 3 along with Newspaper Record, the 6, and Concrete Rose, the 1. I don't think Belle Laura is good enough to win, but I am going to key her in trifectas, hoping that she comes with the same rush she did at Keeneland.
Go to the Juvenile Fillies on the dirt at a mile and a 16th. And again, that starts a pick 4 that includes the last race on the card, which is a non-Breeders' Cup race. Who do you like in the Juvenile Fillies?
Well, I like the filly coming out of the West Coast for Simon Callahan, Bellafina. I watched her last 3 races, and she really wasn't challenged at all. And that 94 buyer in her second race in the Sorrento at 6 furlongs, I love the progression that he's put this filly through, starting off at 5 furlongs, then 6 furlongs, then 7, and going to Santa Anita at a mile and 16, seeing if she can stretch out. And she won the Chandelier for fun. So the distance isn't a problem. The post position might handicap her a little bit, but there's 10 in here, not 14. So I think that will not handicap her greatly because it looks like that she is the best filly in the race. I'm going to use Jaywalk, the 7, coming out of the Frizette. She's on a 3-race win streak. Sippican Harbor is a 12-1 shot that won the Spinaway over Restless Rider and has been off since September 1st. But for Gary Contessa, and I think she deserves a look here. Serengeti Empress with a couple of impressive wins at Ellis Park and one at Churchill Downs. And she and Restless Rider, who's my next pick, are the only ones who have won at Churchill. So that is a big key here. And Restless Rider, although I'm listing her fourth or fifth, I think she's got a real shot coming off the Alcibiades win. She looked extremely impressive that day. And she makes Sippican Harbor look that much better. So I'm probably going to go 5 deep in here. If you made me take a win pick, though, Bellafina would be my win pick on top of maybe Restless Rider and Jaywalk.
I ended up going to Jaywalk. Originally was picking Restless Rider, but more I looked at Jaywalk. I like the improvement on the stretch out to a mile, and I think the pedigree suggests that this one can stretch out even further. The Frizette's been a key prep historically for this race. I like that Rosario stays with her in the saddle. And I had Dick Girardi on my radio show this week, and He is a longtime turf rider from up in the Philadelphia area, and so has followed John Service a lot. And he was telling me that Service is as high on this filly as he was on the horse that won the Kentucky Oaks a few years back. So I'm going to take Jaywalk. Restless Rider, 2 for 2 at Churchill. I think that's a big number. I like the improvement to 84 Beyer in the first 2-turn race. Reflect, I like a little bit in here to at least hit the board. The Keith DeSormo horses tend to get better with distance and experience. I think she'll like the Churchill Downs long stretch. I think there's plenty of speed in here, too. And because of all that speed, I'm going to use Cassie's Dreamer for a big long shot. Horse that's getting better with distance and now gets 2 turns. And I'm going to take a stand against Bellafina. I don't like the post, and I think there's a good bit of speed in here. So Jaywalk for me, but it'll be a spread race. I'm going to use those 4 in the pick 4. I'd like to throw in Bellafina just as a safety net too, but I'm going to leave her out just to keep the ticket somewhat manageable. 8th race is the Juvenile Turf. So the boys go a mile on the grass. I went through this and I picked a different winner about 3 or 4 times, and I get back and forth, and I finally ended up back on the horse I first went to, who is a maiden, War of Will, for Mark Casse. Big effort in the Summer Stakes up at Toronto earlier in the late summer, early fall, a Grade 1 against Fog of War. Looked like was going to beat Fog of War, who would be a huge favorite if he was in here. And then came back and ran really well in the Bourbon Stakes at Keeneland, but just got beat. I like that Rosario didn't ride him at Keeneland, but is getting back on here. He rode him to a victory up at to the strong race up at Woodbine. And he cuts back to a mile from a mile and a 16th, and I like that. So I'm going to try a big price here in War of Will. Anthony Van Dyke or Van Dyck I like, but I don't like the post. So I think that's the one to beat. Line of Duty is another Euro that I think has a much better post out of the 5-hole. Charlie Appleby is a big-time player in here. So I definitely want those 2 on my ticket. 40 under, I like. Got a good post draw, has one on soft ground. Current, that won the Bourbon Stakes. Clutcher going to Johnny V. I like that move, and I think that horse is a big player. Henley's Joy was right there at the finish. So you can tell I'm all over the place here, but I'm going to a shaky win pick to War of Will. How about you?
Yeah, I'm like you. I started in this race with the 3 that came out of the Bourbon because they finished within less than a length of each other. Current got the best trip on the outside, but Henley's Joy was right there splitting horses. And those 2 horses, ironically, I think you remember on the Bourbon Stakes day, their owners flew up from New Orleans on the same plane, and they finished 1-2, had the exacta that day. So I've got to go back and keep them. But I also like War of Will. He did all the work on the front end there, and excuse me, even when they started firing down the lane, he only got beat by 3/4 of a length. So I'm like you. I think War of Will's got a big shot in here. So I'm going to go with those 3. I'm going to use Arthur Kitt from the inside, coming out of a Newmarket race where he was competitive. I'm just taking a shot here on a couple of Euros. I'm going to use Anthony Van Dyke as well for Aidan O'Brien from the outside. Would like him better if he didn't have a 14 post. And then the other horse that you didn't mention that I like is 40 under for Jeremiah Englehart, coming out of the Pilgrim race. That race, I was listening to somebody last night, said it has not been any kind of a key race. The horses coming out there have not done that well in the turf, but I like that effort and beat a horse called Something Like It Hot Brown who's in here too. So I'm going to use 40 under as well, but I'm going to go deep in here. If you made me pick a win ticket, I would think Current because of the improvement last out, but I could take any of those 3 out of the Bourbon.
And there's one other one I forgot to mention I had on my list. I just noticed Uncle Benny, who got a huge figure when he moved to the turf, a huge jump up, and I like that. I always like that angle, and this horse has got the pedigree and the style to like the stretch out, so I think that one could be worth a look. All right, let's go to the Juvenile, mile and the 16th, and I thought this race probably, you got the 2 horses coming out of the Key New York prep and the 2 coming out of the Key California prep. I think I'll stick with those. That's Complexity and Code of Honor from the East Coast, and Game Winner and Gunmetal Gray out of the West Coast. One more I'm going to add is Dueling. If I like Gunmetal Gray, I got to use the other Hollendorfer for a price down on the inside with a better post, Dueling. So I'm going to use those 5 in my pick 5. My win pick's going to be Code of Honor, a Shug McGahee horse winning first time out at 6 furlongs is always interesting. And then Johnny V taking the ride here for Shug. I like that angle. So Code of Honor is my win pick, but I don't see anything too crazy in here. How about you?
I thought this was a lot more formful than some of the other races, and because it was, I'm going to take a stand here with Game Winner. I hadn't been tested much on the West Coast. Has a better post position than Gunmetal Grade. I don't like the 12-hole. So Game Winner in the 9 can stalk the speed, and Rosario takes him back. He went out there to ride him in the American Pharoah after riding him in the Del Mar maiden special weight. So I think Rosario obviously has an affinity for this horse, and I just think Bob Baffert with a 2-year-old is a good place to take a stand here. He's going to have some competition from the 2 horses coming out of the East Coast. Complexity looks awfully good for Chad Brown, and dueling for Hollendorfer, Code of Honor coming out of the Champagne. But again, I'm going to take a stand here. I'm going to say Game Winner is the real deal, and that buyer progression and going from 6 to 7 to mile 16, the same as I talked about the Philly race. I really like that, and I think he just sets up perfectly for him. So take a stand with Game Winner here. 9 horse.
Give me your pick 4 ticket starting in the 6th with the Juvenile Phillies Turf for the All Breeders' Cup pick 4.
Okay, by taking a stand, I got a lot of money to spend, because one thing that I want to talk about while I'm thinking about it is that on Breeders' Cup Day, and in particular on Saturday when you've got 9 Breeders' Cup races, sometimes the pick 4s get awfully expensive. And the best thing I've ever done in Breeders' Cup Days is play rolling pick 3s. And for example, this may not be an example, but I love the 9 horse in the 9th race here. I may play a pick 3 singling him, going deep in the 10th race and going deep in the 8th. And that's a lot less expensive. You can do that for $30, 6 by 5 by single, $15 for you, a 15-cent pick 3. So I think that's the way to go here if you can't afford to pick 4. But I put together a $90 pick 4 using the 5 horses I talked about in the Juvenile Phillies Turf: 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, Concrete Rose, Mackin Bullet, Willie's Candle, Just Wonderful, and Newspaper of Record. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. In the 7th, I went 2, 4, 7, 8, 10. And I don't have a strong impression there. I couldn't cut that down very much. So that's Bellafina on top, but Jaywalk, Sipican Harbor, Serengeti Empress, and Restless Rider. So I'm going to go 5 by 5, and I'm going to go 6 deep in the 8th race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And I think Arthur Kitt to 1, 40 under the 4, the 6 horse Henley's Joy, the 10 War of Will, the 12 Current, and the 14 Anthony Van Dyke. So that's 1, 4, 6, 10, 12, 14. And it gets easy at the end. Single the 9, the Baffert horse Game Winner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 with 2, 4, 7, 8, 10, with 1, 4, 6, 10, 12, 14 with 9. I believe that comes up to $90. So
Mine's an $84 ticket. I'm going 1, 6 in the first leg, Concrete Rose, Newspaper of Record. Taking 4 in the Juvenile Phillies, 1, 4, 5, 7. Then in the Juvenile Turf, I am going really deep. I'm using 7 horses, 2, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14. And as you can tell, I have a strong opinion. I'm going to trim down what I was actually going to originally do. I'm going to go deeper there, and then I'm just going to use Game Winner, Complexity, and Code of Honor. So 6, 9, 11 in the last leg, and not use the 2 Hollendorfers. And so I'm 2 by 4 by 7 by 3. Should be $84, I think, if my math is right. Best of luck with your wagers. Don't forget, we'll be back with 2 more podcasts to break up the Saturday Breeders' Cup cards. So listen for those here at KeenelandSelect.com.